on the One Network.
At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest.
Hello and welcome to the Collective Imagination for this week. I'm Lisa Harrison and this week I'm solo. We may be joined by Brian and Dee via Skype. Maybe not. We shall see. But last week's show generated a lot of talk, positive responses, and Lily's been kind enough to join us again this week to answer some of the questions that have come in. Many have, via email, via Skype, Facebook posts, messages on the website, and we hope to get through as many of them as we can, as well as people emailing her directly. And she wants to try and answer those directly first before we get going. But welcome and thank you again, Lily, for joining us.
Hi, Lisa and Dee and Brian, and thank you so much for having me again.
You're more than welcome.
I'm really happy to be here, and honestly, the last time I was on, I had no idea what response I'm gonna get, and the response I got is just incredible. So thank you all so much for listening. It's just I am still in this space where I feel like, is it really real that the people are actually responding to this? Because for the last few years, I had all of this information bubbling in from the inside. And in 2013, in 2013, only a few months after the December of 2012, with some of this information I brought up to my friends, nobody got it. And the response I'm getting right now is just incredible. So thank you all so much. And I do want to apologize to you guys because last time we had this connection that was not really good. And it seemed like on the tape later that I was just talking over you guys because I couldn't hear.
That's okay. We understand that.
Or anything. So I'm sorry about that. It seems like because there was so much material that I had to go through, and I think that I needed to speak about all that, the percentages and how it all, because it is a foundation for for our future moving into a planetary timeline. So that gives a basic mental understanding of how this whole process will work. But it created a lot of confusion, and I got a lot of questions, that people weren't sure about what really harvest is and what it means and what had closed or what not. So I want to go a little bit before I go into everybody's questions. I want to go and clarify some of those things. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So the first I wanted to talk about what harvest is. If you hear all the spiritual teachings and everything, there was somebody who said the ascension was it's a timeline. That ascension was going to start in 2012, and then it was going to end in 2017. Mm-hmm. So ascension equals harvest. So that was harvest, but actually the timeline came a little bit sooner than that. And to give you an example how harvest works, I'll give you a very simple example. Think of astral levels like a container, okay? That all the incarnates on the planet with their portals, their personal portals, their chakra portals, fill in over time with that organic frequency. So think of it as a container that has many, many little, portals to attach to it, and it fills in that container over time.
Got you.
The big portal that connects to astral levels from the home worlds of all those races is a bigger portal that connects from astral levels to the home world. And this is what I call harvest. When that portal, it opens and it sucks all that organic quanta from that container that I call astral levels.
Can I just go over that again? Because I'm getting a mental picture and I want to see if I'm accurate. For example, we've got the planet, which is connected to, although not in the way it was prior to Atlantis, but
yes,
connected to the planet in such a way that it can, what's the word? Vacuum up this organic quanta, this organic energy, which is also, and it's a container, and it's sealed at the top until harvest time. Yes. And then at harvest time, the top opens, and all of the energy that is for a particular home planet just gets allocated.
Yes, that's what it moves through a Merkaba field, because there is also, like I said, remember that there is quarantine. So it's not really a quarantine. It's just that there's portals that open. You can come through them into our astral, but you can't go back. It's a one-way ticket. Only organic quanta that can go back.
So what happens in between the harvests? It just fills up in these containers? Yeah, the astral levels keep sucking from individuals that are incarnated on the planet. They keep feeding. So think of it like the portal that goes from astral level to whatever home planet. And this is, let's talk about main 7 races. And so there is 7 of those big openings, Yep. But then the openings that suck from the planet, there are little tiny ones because it's individual. They don't have the big portal that we used to have, the stargates that we used to have on the planet. So it's slowly, they fill up this container, which is the astral level, with this energy that they need to feed their home planets. This actually brings up so many questions that I already had for you. Okay, so how do I even go there?
So what that means, what the ascension timeline, it's actually what that is those big portals open up and then they suck everything from astral levels. And this is why, and so that time had ended because it ended a little bit sooner than what was predicted. And so now that's closed. So you have to think of astral levels and the astral beings that are stuck in there. They don't have much of this quanta. That's why usually after all harvests, because we have this main 5 harvests, but we also had some more smaller harvests before. And so after each harvest, this is when you get the rise in the violence on the planet, because that brings the best harvest. So maybe I should call...
The kind of, to me, the most obvious question is why they need to harvest at all. I mean, the light creation, this divine creation, it comes from internal creation, so it has to be made up of internal creation to start with. Why does it then need to feed to continually expand? Why does it need to feed us at all? Why does it not get its energy to expand directly from the source?
Think of it as internal creation, where it externalizes itself. It gives a certain amount of its energy to be externalized. And so, and I know that it's such a huge concept, but the light creation, when it takes that first separation, the first separation is that huge amount of internal creation that separates itself from internal creation. So it's not always connected. It's disconnected from internal creation. And the only way it's able to reconnect through internal creation is through the path of return, through the places and our planet that has that frequency that will be able to look at it as a rope. So when they come here, and then they can grab onto that rope to reconnect back to internal creation. So this is what the planet does.
Sorry, Lily, you may have to repeat that last sentence because you went all robot.
Our brick. Okay. So internal creation, where it externalizes itself. So it actually, external creation, in this case light, does disconnect from internal creation. And so it goes into multidimensional existence, and when it comes to when they exceeded all the internal creation that they had a frequency of, that's when they come back into a planet like ours to reconnect with the internal creation. So the light creation in itself is disconnected from internal creation because it has to take a return path, which is to reconnect back to internal creation.
Okay. Did you cover yet everything you wanted to cover before we moved on from the questions that you received directly?
So, there's just one more misunderstanding that I'm going to go into a little bit, but what I'm going to say is maybe I should call the harvest as those big portals, and then the astral feeding. The astral feeding never stops. It just really gets a lot bigger when after harvest, because it empties out the astral levels.
So last week... sorry, go ahead.
So this is why we have so much astral feeding right now.
So last week you said that there were beings that are stuck in the astral.
Yes.
And that's because the lid's closed again. But there's there must be something different about the way the lid closed, as opposed to just the end of the harvest, as it's always been.
Because it was the last harvest. And if you know from the myth, remember about the goddess, that some of the gods came and rescued her from under the underworld? Do you remember those stories about the gods? That was still the beings that are stuck in astral are still, because they're still slaves to their higher self, to the gods and to the light source, and they're still servants of that. They are still we're hoping that somehow they'll be rescued and moved out of this astral planes and will go back home. And they had that hope all the way until this last harvest. And that, of course, didn't happen because it was always one-way ticket even for those beings that came into astral. And so because it's the last harvest, they know now that that's it. That they will go space dust. There is no other way for them. This portal will not open again for them to have any hope that they will go back home.
You also said last week, and you just sort of hinted on it now, that it's the beings in the astral that are feeding, or people here are feeding their astral beings. So just to clarify, is this a person's higher self?
Yes.
So it's their own higher self that's trapped in the astral that needs to feed. And okay, that was clarification on one thing.
Because when we know that, we know how light creation works is math, and it's fragmentation. So by the time we fragment here into a physical, I mean, it's what we call collective. And so collective, it has it's an oversoul level which is following next higher dimensions, which is their higher self.
So what about, I mean, the talk has been so far about Anunnaki and Draconian, but where do the Palladians and the Syrians and the Pashats and the insects and all the other races come into it? Because there are people here who feel very, very connected to those planets, those beings, those races.
Yes.
To dovetail on that, if I'm here now.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to add to that. Hey, Lisa, I just want to add to that question. What Lily's assessment is as to why things like first contact and disclosure of galactic races hasn't occurred yet, and what are the missing ingredients that will allow for that event to actually finally take place?
Did you hear that, Lily?
I'm sorry, Brian. It's just I couldn't. It's just so much.
Okay, he said
noise.
Disclosure, first contact, interplanetary communication. Why hasn't that happened yet? Can it happen? What can we do to facilitate that happening? And should we, perhaps?
Actually, it was all part of the deception and manipulation. Because when you want to create that was all done to hype people up so they can create somehow those portal openings that those beings can come in directly into this planet. And so this is what all the disclosure and everything about. And the only thing that stood in the way is the planet herself. She just wouldn't allow for that to happen.
So who are the Palladians, then, for example?
For millions of Palladians are you have to think about that even though we have 7 main draconian lines in here of Dracos, they're all being tainted by Anunnaki. They're all being enslaved by an Anunnaki frequency, because when this planet decided to do a healing station for Draconians, they are Draconians on themselves, by themselves, are really naive. And Anunnaki manipulated them, and they've tainted every line of Draconians, and so they enslaved them. And so the Draconians are enslaved by Anunnaki. And Anunnaki use them in all kinds of ways. And yeah, there is some pure Draconian souls, but usually they're still enslaved by an Anunnaki soul that is, a layer above them.
Okay,
and so all those
does that
planets
have to do with Palladians and Syrians and things?
Syrians this is where Anunnaki and Draconian lines are actually hybridized.
So you're saying the Palladians and the Syrians and the Pashats and everybody else are actually Draconian?
They are, the thing is, if they are here, here incarnated. So if a person is really connected to, let's say, they say that's where they are from, they will, it is an Anunnaki soul, but they do have a draconian frequency because they had to be able to come. And the reason they came here and did that is because they do want this earth frequency.
Hang
and
on,
so
sorry.
they manipulate.
You just cracked up a little bit then. I just wanted to clarify. If they're here on the planet and feel very connected to those races, then there is a
Yes.
connection to Anunnaki or Draconian heritage.
Yes.
But if they're not on planet here,
Then they could be what you would say either pure Anunnaki or pure draconian.
okay, that's going to really upset a lot of people.
Really?
Well, yeah, if
I'm
you're saying
sorry.
the Palladians and the Syrians and the other ET races that we certainly told are very benign, very that don't look anything like the Draconians, are actually Draconian. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that's going to upset
but
people.
the draconians are, as pure beings, they are actually incredibly peaceful, and they came here before they were manipulated by Anunnaki. They came here to do exactly what this planet offered them to do. They were all here to return into internal creation.
Well, what about other races that are very humanoid or look just like us?
Those are, a lot of them have Anunnaki frequency in them. Okay. And Anunnaki have a huge array of the way they look. It's just they look angelic. They look very much human. And we're all on the planet. We do have all those frequencies within our bodies. Mm. Not within our soul per se, and that's the other thing that I need to go into, but it is within our bodies. We carry all of that frequency. And that's okay, and that's why I was so really trying to be very careful last time not to scare people that if they feel like they belong to one of these races that's Draconian or Anunnaki, that it's somehow a bad thing. It's not. It's not a bad thing. If you had done and if you are a Draconian, and if you have done what you were here to do, and you became one with the planet, and you transform your soul, that is this whole, for millions of years, what we've been doing on this planet, that was the mission. That was the mission. That's internal creation doesn't want to separate and throw away these races.
So what does becoming one with the planet really mean?
Well, becoming one with the planet, it's really is just doing what this races came here to do. Because, like I said before, this planet is like a rope that any soul that wants to come back into internal creation just grab onto and hang on to and go back home into internal creation and not go space dust. And this is what it's all about here. So a lot of these races and a lot of groups of these races have done that. I mean, there is people, you'll go into, natives on different continents. Even in Australia, in New Zealand, there's groups of people that say, we are the seven serpents, but this is our mother. Mm-hmm. We are staying with the planet. Because that's what they're doing. And they're not afraid to admit it, that they're serpents. And they're incredibly, I've read this article on one group that lived there, how much their balance with planet is just incredible.
Well, you probably know a fair bit about the rainbow serpent of Australia mythology.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a little bit about it, but that's what it is. But a lot of that time, because people here that are to harvest the frequency of this planet, it's almost like they want to feud their, dying reality. Because light creation, because it's so dual in nature, the spiritual hierarchy and the spiritual ego is so big. It goes away all the way up to this God source of light. It's ego. You've seen and you've read a lot about, how gods can really have big egos. And so they forgot their source. They all were at once part of that internal creation. But because of that ego and manipulations, they forgot that it's okay. And they're afraid that if they go into internal creation frequency, which is, everybody's equal and no hierarchy, they feel like they will lose their individuality. And they don't want to do that. They're just stubborn. But the reason why it's so concentrated on the earth, because it does have a lot of that frequency. And this beings here, they harvest not just for their, there is a reason why. It's because of what this planet has and how much of this frequency they can get and how much they can go for another cycle. And why not? And especially Anunnaki, they have harvested throughout the universe quite a bit, and they were very successful at it.
Well, this kind of brings me to, excuse me, you made reference last week to the planet and her soul level.
Mm-hmm.
So who is she?
The planetary soul level, even though it's not really a soul level, because the planet herself has only is not in a way a multidimensional, because if it's internal creation, because multidimensional, it's a separation, it's mathematical, that's light creation. But her, beyond her 3D and astral levels, she is not light creation. She is of internal creation, but I still use that same term, and I would say her soul level is internal creation frequency.
So her purpose up to this point, by her choice, was to be a rehab center, essentially, for these races, and
Yes.
that has finished now. So, what is her purpose?
That is finished,
now?
and now, I mean, it's not really finished. It's just the beginning. There was so much of this. It's a long process. It's an existence in a whole. The light creation takes a long time, and the path return will take a while too. It's not like it just happened. It's going to be a different, or it's not going to be a time matrix anymore, but it's going to be a different existence, because it's not going to be like existence. But it takes time to go from that. So she's got now all these people that have moved on and became one with her on the soul level. Which what that means is that people. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, what's the difference between a soul being of light creation and one of the souls that is harvesting, and then souls that are bioregenerated? Okay, think of the planetary soul, which she has inside is, let's say, a water in the glass. Okay, our bodies are the same, and our bodies are like that glass. It's exactly the same, but what they are filled with is a different frequency. Mm-hmm. The light creation souls are filled with their spirit body, let's say, or soul is filled with light creation frequency. And then people, the 15% that I talked about, they're, again, because they connected with the planet and they healed themselves, their soul, their spirit body is matching to the planet. So they have, let's say, water in that glass. But the glass, which is the body, is the same, because that is also, our body is the same of this that are not rehabilitated, and the ones that are rehabilitated is exactly the same, because it also acts as a connection for other people to step into this planetary timeline, because they have to have some kind of connection. It is very elaborate plan. I mean, it's hard to explain in all this limited words that I have, and especially I have very limited English. But I don't know how else I can make people understand. It's a different frequency. It's just different.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. I can't find words to explain what this frequency is. I can probably give people an examples of how, or just tell them how I felt. That it gives you the different kind of feelings that it gives you, that some clues that you can get. But it really is a decision on your soul level. And when people look back on their life, they will notice some things that they didn't even mentally understood, but they were guided from something that is so much bigger than their mental body, that there was something inside of them that drove them to do things that they've done, to take the path that they've took, and it was not a mental body decision. Mm-hmm. So that would be a signs, I guess, a clues of those people that have passed through, into the time, connected with the planet.
So what of the significance then of the human body? I mean,
the human body is, like I said, it's like a shell, like the glass,
But in terms of its DNA and its evolution, I mean, a lot of the work that I've kind of really resonated with lately is that, well, not lately, but for quite some time, is that the human body, I mean, you did talk about this too, that the human body cannot contain the whole of the soul. And this is not new information to me, but you gave it different percentages and things. What I was already aware of was the concept that the body can only contain a fraction of the soul, and that's actually what a twin soul is that, and what our higher self is. The higher self is the rest of us that can't fit into the body, and that's kind of what our twin is. But what we're going through right now with the human body is that the human body is becoming capable, and in the process of incorporating more of the soul, and taking on, how can I put it, activating, switching on, waking up, whatever you want to call it, all of the, what we might call superpowers, internal tech, that the body is capable of.
Yes, because our bodies eventually will completely change.
What do you see happening to the bodies?
The thing is right now, and the reason, I'll tell you why, the reason we had so little souls, and even like people like you that were earthlings, that were from the beginning, their spirit was of this planet, planetary spirit. They did incarnate through the core of this planet. They had that organic internal creation soul already, but they can only embody very little of it, because in a way there's two reasons for it. Because internal creation, you remember how it is always, it treats everybody as equals. So if you're earthling, you can only have a little bit of your soul in your body, just as much as, let's say, no more than somebody who is here to heal has of their soul, because you gotta be equal. And that's why we have exact same bodies. The body blueprint, and that's why we have all the frequencies within our body, because we gotta be equal, and we gotta, there's gotta be some kind of connection. Okay. If the earthlings would have a completely, organic body, and, then how would they connect to those that needed to be rehabilitated? On the same time, it was also a protection type of thing, because you got to understand this harvesting is very, it's been driving this planet, systems and governments and everything to just, harvest. And this was also a way for a planet to hide or protect those that do facilitate this healing, so it can actually happen.
Hiding in plain sight.
Yes. This is how the planet does this, this thing, and we've been staying. Yourself. You've been just kind of going through life, and you kind of felt like you're one with everybody because that's what It was part of hiding, and this planet did that and facilitated, and it played their game in a way. Everybody was hiding in the plain sight. And then when harvest started to happen, and it started to happen actually in about 2011, because there's some portals, because you remember the astral levels have quite a few of those big portals. So they were opening, one, then another one.
2011 was a big year for a lot of people.
Yes.
Me included.
Yes. It started harvesting in 2012. It was pretty much done by then. Everybody got, and then those portals stayed open for a little while, and then they started to close. But yeah, that was a big push for all that energy to come from the planet and push so everything that they could get could go through those portals. But that was also because they were so busy harvesting. That was the weakness. And that was the time when the facilitators and earthlings and those 15%, this is when they pretty much became visible, let's say, or became even to themselves. They became who they are. None of these people knew. You probably will, I guarantee it, you probably will look back at your life and you'll say, you know what? I didn't really know who I belonged to. What group, I was doing all this work. I was getting close to this group. I was trying to find out from this, and this, all these groups. And then all of a sudden, you just knew that you never is exactly part of that group. You had some kind of connection to them, but you're not. And then all of a sudden, in about 2012, some people 2011, 2012, you just kind of had this realization that you really are on your own, that there is something within you that is not really like everything else.
I'm just sitting here laughing.
Those are the 15%. They woke up to who they are themselves. And because it was a weak point for harvesters on that time, because they were so busy harvesting and getting as much as they can, that planet timed that and sort of, if you want to use this word, activated. And she needed those 15% to anchor, to wake up to who they are, basically drop into the center, because and just pretty much start operating from the center right away without even mentally understanding. Understanding this mentally, it took me like 2 years to understand mentally what the hell happened. Because I all of a sudden I disconnected mentally from all the teachings, and all of a sudden I feel this energy, this power within you. But you can't, it's not really power that you just go and you fight darkness or, empower light with it. It was a different power. It was power that give you this just calm feeling, and it just really overtook your whole existence. And I'm sure a lot of people, of those 15%, they felt that in some way. And only later they came to understand that it was really that internal creation that was within you. It got really kind of like activated. And this is when the planet did that. When they were harvesting, what she did is, when they were looking the other way, tried to harvest so much, she anchored that planetary timeline, and she needed that 15% to do it. And she prepared herself, and she prepared this people. All these people were prepared, and when they look back at their life, they will understand that they were always being prepared by planet.
I think you're going to find a lot of people connect with that.
And yeah, I know the thing for me that was very big, it was, I without mentally understanding, I was grounding myself with the planet. and completely disconnected from mental understanding or any kind of mental meditations. Just be with the planet. Go lay on the grass for hours and not think about anything.
We did touch on it, but I wanted you to elaborate. You said our bodies, talking about our bodies. What do you see happening? How do you see them evolving?
We still have a job to do because the planet activated and anchored this planetary timeline. But she would like for us to bring more of those people from 85% into her timeline. And so for as long as that's possible to do, we are going to have pretty much similar body.
So if she could give us a top priority, that would be it. If so, how do we do that?
The thing is, because it's just constantly, we need to try to anchor our own self with this timeline, with the planet, and we need to constantly pay attention because we're going to be distracted and pulled out of our center. We always have to operate from the center. You know, just there's people that will come in our lives and they will try to distract us and bring us back into duality. Mm-hmm. I always tell people, just and the way you feel about that information, just feel it and then allow yourself to let that feeling actually move into your mental body. And I'm not saying to disconnect from your mental body, but do not operate from it. Because if we do, we are tricked. And this is where when 15% can get, feed the astral, is when we do start to operate from our mental body. We got to constantly keep our center, our soul in the center of our body. And that will really increase your emotional body feeling. It's not going to make it more dual. Let's say, that you feel, some people ask me, does that mean if I am neutralizing my emotional body, does that mean I'm not going to be able to feel love? No, it actually doesn't. This makes your emotional body, it has to be full. You can't chop off your emotional body and say, well, because I'm going to neutralize and work from center, I'm not going to let anger, be present. You have to understand that anger and fear and love has one same source. It's just dual. But when you neutralize that in the center, you can say, well, I'm not accepting this. Accept your full emotional body. And when you do, you can actually, it's almost like it changes. It's more intense, but yet at the same time, it's not so bipolar. Mm-hmm. You can feel what I don't know if that's going to be a good example. You can almost feel at the same time the fear and love, but it doesn't affect you that one is bad and one is good. It is more intense because you're feeling that with your internal creation, which is a lot more powerful. So your soul, with you saying that we have a lot more soul in, it's not so much that we have more soul in incarnate, it's just because it's active. It's a lot more intense than the light creation frequency. Because internal creation, what I can say, maybe it's a lot more potent than light frequency. Because light frequency is all chopped off. It's all, mathematically. So you go into expansion and light creation. And so an internal creation is very, very potent. So what you feel like, you say we embody so much of our soul, it's because your soul of that internal creation, and it's really potent. So you feel so much, it's almost like your whole body vibrates from it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a bit, how can I put this? We've done shows on our internal tech and developing that of the evolution of the body. So could you just get, if you can, a little bit more detailed as to how you see that unfolding?
Um,
I mean,
this is
okay, put it this way. People have had visions of us being able to literally change our form at will.
yeah. Eventually, it will come to that. It's probably not going to be for another at least 50 years, though, because there's still a lot of work and there's still a lot of people that needs to have the connection, which is this body that we have. But what's going to happen is instantly you're going to be able to communicate without words, but it's not going to be a mental communication. When people that are of this internal creation frequency, their soul is within them, they have this energy within them, they'll step into each other's, like they'll meet. And automatically they will, because this internal creation is, like I said, like that water, it communicates with each other, even though it might be separated by bodies that we have that over light creation and external creation, that internal creation still communicates.
And it's more emotional than mental.
It is definitely more emotional. It's always, but it's not really that bipolar emotional body that we have.
Oh.
It's almost like it's a little bit more in the center. It's like you feel both at the same time, yet it's not either bad or good. It's very intense.
Yep.
But it's not intense like, oh, you can't handle it. It's just, it's a completely different feeling. And so when people would, let's say, meet, they don't need to communicate or talk a lot. They actually, their energies, their spirit bodies just connect, exchange information, and it just happens in the split of a second.
I know exactly what you mean.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's one of the things,
Is there more?
There is more. The people that wanted to feel, I've got a lot of people asking me, how do I know if I'm the 15%? It's hard to say because, but you will start feel, it's not even going to be a mental process. It's more of that you're just going to feel in a certain way. You're going to feel like you're going to want to start treating everybody equally. There's some signs might be that all of a sudden you want to become a vegetarian or a vegan because you respect that you give equality to all the animals because animals are here to do their job, and so everything is just going to become more equal, and you're going to become a lot more aware and able to connect this separate duality. You're going to be able to see the connections between the positive and the negative. You may not process that mentally, but inside of you will feel the connection right away.
Okay, what if...
And you will become a lot more neutral to all this, positive, negative, and fighting, and it gives you this peace inside. And that's all I can say. And then this is why connecting with the planet, because what you do with the planet is the same way. When you connect with the planet, then this is like information that I am getting. Everybody can get that information when they connect with the planet, because it's like I said, this frequency, it communicates sort of through your emotional body. And all that information is all of a sudden is shared with you when you are in connection with that.
Okay, so what about inner Earth? Does it exist the way that we've been told? Are there beings? Are there Agathans? All of that stuff?
It is a possibility, but I'm very I'm very cautious about all the teachings that come from that dualistic perspective, because there's so much manipulation in it. And because even though I can say, okay, I am connected with the planet and I have the internal frequency, active in my being, I still have that mental body that is connected to astral, and they still will manipulate us for a long time. And so I don't want to step into that, because to be honest with you, it has not been something that's been coming to me from the planet. The planet is really been concentrating more on how we can stabilize this planetary timeline and bring more people onto it. So I've been getting only the information that contains to that. I know one thing, that the core of this planet is that internal frequency. I also know that the black or dark matter, as they call, is in a way, it may not be an exact internal creation frequency, but what I feel is somehow plays a big role in that. And this is what I feel is a lot of the races that are here to harvest. This is what they're after.
Okay, that's interesting that you brought it up, because it is amongst my questions. One of them, and I'll quote it as it was, excuse me, I'll quote it as it was put forward, which is, Lily alluded that dark matter is the real power of internal creation. Does this mean that the whole Lightworker meme is truly just a false light religion and construct? And if we can tap into our internal creation, dark matter, we are all knowing, manifesting, and powerful.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is exactly how it is. And this is why we have that body. And this is why I said our emotional and physical body has 33% of that internal creation frequency within. We just need to tap into it. And this is what gives that feeling. This is what that power is. That is not dual in its nature, but it is a very powerful feeling when you tap into that. And it is, in a way, that dark matter that our bodies have.
Does that answer your question too?
Mine?
No, sorry, I'm talking to Bill.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to ask it as you've written it? Okay, dark matter is just, or is it, I guess, just a box that physicists throw everything they don't understand or see yet into? Is it just the too hard basket? But to me, the answer you've given is no, it's not. It's internal creation.
No. They just say, oh, we don't understand this, we don't know this, is because they don't want anybody to figure it out that this is what they're after. This is the whole thing, that what they were doing over there in Europe. There's this big facility where they dig deep into the planet and try to create a mini Big Bang.
So
remember, I had just all that the names are just completely skipped my mind right now. The facility name and what the process is.
I think you're referring to CERN or Lucerne.
Yeah, that's what it is. They hide it from everybody that this is what they're after. They know exactly what
they're trying to manufacture internal
what they're trying
creation.
To do. Because,
energy.
like I said, light creation comes out of internal creation.
Yeah.
And so this is why they are trying to create a mini Big Bang. Is they trying to tap into that and create more light creation. This is what happens.
That connects a couple of dots, doesn't it? Okay.
So this is as much as I know about the dark matter, but it is a key element to why they want to harvest the physical body of this planet.
Okay, I wanted to move in. Oh, actually, I've got a couple of questions first.
Okay.
It came up about chakras.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked the question if we get rid of our chakras, I don't know if that's possible, do we stop being harvested?
What you can really get rid of them for a while, and I don't know. I don't want to be, because the time right now, ever since we are on the planetary timeline, it's really became a lot more fluid than it was, with the astral timelines. But it will take a little time before they are completely gone. But you can neutralize them and kind of close them within your body to where you don't feed the astral levels, because that's what it is. It feeds your astral levels. That's your mini stargates.
But isn't that our higher being? Isn't that our higher self? Why would we not want to support
It is. But the thing is, your higher being is also connected to you through your soul, and you don't have to feed it. Like, remember I said that only here in the body, as a soul, you can drag your whole higher self through this healing. It works the opposite, to where when you are so little and you're a fragment of your higher being in 3D existence, but it's in light existence. But when you're here on the planet where things are turning the other way around and you're on the path back, so basically what happens is the souls that are here can have the power to rehabilitate their whole collective. And this is why when I said that only 10% people that rehabilitated will drag their whole, they will take their whole blueprint of their whole race and rehabilitate it. Because this is how it works with internal creation.
Okay.
So what happens is here, because people that they have this power, the power is it. This is why the elite works so hard at making us feel like we are so powerless. And those beings that want to, instead of going through rehabilitation, they want to feed on you. This is why they always make the channels and everybody and all this spiritual teachings that say, oh, you little people, you need help. You're nothing. You're just so weak. It's because they try to convince you that you are weak, because they know that the power you have is when you connect with this planet, the power is immense. You can drag the whole collective through rehabilitation. This is how much power you have on this planet. Once you have your body, when you have a body as a soul on this planet, you have immense power. And this is why there's all this manipulation machine to make us feel so we do not connect to that power. Make us feel like we can only get our power from them. But then people pray and give them all this emotional prayers, but they don't get any power from it. They just feel weak. And some people, they go to church and then they came back from church and they just plop on the couch because they're exhausted. God doesn't give them power. It is within their body that they have that power.
Gotcha. And I just wanted to, because it's a question that came in a lot, and I just want to cover it off before I move on to the next subject, which is, can you just elaborate a bit more on why prayer and global meditation, firstly, people perceived you saying that it's a really bad thing. Just clarify what you meant by it and why.
It is because, and I know that I was trying to, and that's why it came a little bit unclear last time, because I was not trying to break people's beliefs into that positive stuff because a lot of people perceive me as negative because I'm saying that, those things feed astral levels. And if you want to stop feeding astral levels, you got to stop doing that. There's other ways that you can empower yourself more individually, connect with the planet, then go playing these games and feed the astral. The global meditations, if you look back, if you really want to just check me on my words and check if that's the case, what you can do is you can look back on any type of things and things that happen in the group people. Let's say there was let's talk about what happened in Washington when they were marching against the bankers over there. What happens with that? Everybody got over there. It was a huge thing in here, and everybody.
You mean the Occupy movement?
Yeah, the Occupy movement, okay? It was a positive thing. People were standing up for themselves. They wanted to do. What did it really do? Look at the banking system after that. It got more stronger.
The whole thing was created and funded by the banking system, though, to start with.
Yes, because they use that power. And that people have this power within them, but they manipulate them to use that to create what they want. because the elite and the layers above people that control people, they want to keep people enslaved. They never want them to discover that their inner self is a lot more potent, that connection to the planet, that their internal creation frequency that is within them is a lot more stronger. So like I said, they want this. So what they do is they manipulate people in creating what they want with their own internal frequency. And so they give that power of their own inner power, and it doesn't matter, positive or a negative side. So when people meditate and give that own power, they give to some positive being or some positive cause or anything, they gotta understand if it's positive, it's gonna have a negative. So you gotta take responsibility for both. So people that went to that movement and put so much energy into it, it seems like they stood up to something that that was so negative, and so it was positive. But what did it really do? Let's be real and check and say, okay, well, it's strengthening the banking system. When that was happening, right after that, I even saw it in my neighborhood. In our little town, there was 3 new banks that were building right after that. Yeah. I mean, everybody was talking about how it's failing and all this, the banking system's going to fail. And I see these big buildings just going up in 3 months. They built 3 new banks right in my city. And I'm like, that's the sign that it wasn't. And a lot of times, because we don't understand the light creation, we rather be just blind about it, and people don't check those facts. Let's check on that. What does that positive does for what's happening on the other side of it? Like, in a lot of spiritual people went and did a lot of positive meditations in Arizona, because there was a portal there. There was a spiritual positive portal in there. But I tell people, okay, don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Check, go look at the map and check what exactly is going on the other side of the planet, right across it, because that's all connected. What is happening is an exact mirror, which is a negative, or what was happening here. You don't have to, this is not something that I come up with, or it's an illusion that this is actually happening. You can go check for yourself and see that. But eventually, we need to take responsibility for our creation in light. And then, people may say, well, you're so negative, so what are we supposed to do? What we should do is neutralize that. First within ourselves, and then what I said, you can still create a reality, but you can create a reality that you fully understand what you create, and you can accept that reality. When you personally do that with yourself and you take responsibility, people always like to blame somebody else, but we are all part of this creation. We're all part of it as a collective on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Lily, I've got a bunch of questions here. And we all
someday have to take responsibility. Okay.
Sorry, sweetie, I didn't mean to talk over you. I do have a bunch of questions, and just because of timing, it would be nice to try and get through them quickly, and then I want to move on to kind of the vision for the future. What do you think is happening when people see multidimensional geometries, living shapes?
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Yes. That is their light body activating, basically.
Nice.
Because that's what it is. But the thing is, you have to think about what is the reason that you see that? Is it for you to understand what it is, or is it trying to do something to you, or is it trying to lock you up
Okay.
in the light creation?
Gotcha.
Because a lot of times, what the mathematical, symbols and things do is because they're mathematical. That means they can lock you up in the light body, and you can't move into internal creation. So, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't see that, or if you see that, that means it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. What you need to understand is what does that image? How the first question, the first thing that people should pay attention when they see that or when they have these visions is, how do they feel?
Okay.
How do you feel? Does it pull you out of your center, or does it make you to connect that to your feeling? Does that vision is showing you some kind of connection to a center? Because what we have to do is even though the 15% of people that are on the planetary timeline, they will still have to kind of disassemble this we have here. And that could be part of that, because a lot of these people will play a big role in there's many layers to disassembling this reality and bringing down the illusion of separation that needs to happen for this reality. And a lot of people will play a role in a specific subject. So
what about
your specific subject might be the secret geometry.
So what about when people have what we call out-of-body experiences or astral project and things like that?
That's actually that's astral feeding.
So what about when you consciously do an out-of-body?
What you do is when you go any process of going into out of body, where you go into astral levels. Every technique, every book, I've read a few books about astral projection. They're all done through a pineal, meaning you gotta station yourself in the pineal. You gotta go there, and so basically, when you station yourself in pineal, you connect directly to astral levels.
So, is there a way of doing it where you go through the center?
If part of your work is to work the astral levels, yeah, you can go through a center, but you're not going to be. You can go to astral levels, but you are not going to be having as much when you go through the center. You're not going to be having as much visual as feelings, because you're going to feel through astral levels, and your visual is not going to be as sharp. So that's the only way. But I haven't figured out how to do that, because when you do that, when you decide in your mental body that you're going to do that on purpose, that's a command that's coming from astral level, because it comes from your mental body. Gotcha. When you do it from the center, it is when your soul needs you to do that because you have a certain thing to do or a certain job that you got to do, then your inner self will direct you, and it's not going to come from your mental desire.
Okay,
so I would recommend people to try to, if you don't want to feed the astral, try to stay away from doing these things in the mental body and doing it on purpose. Just if you want to know more information, let's say, because planet can give you that information. Connect to the planet on emotional body level. Connect to it, and you will feel the information. And you can ask the planet the questions.
Okay.
And it will give you its answers. But if you're trying to push it with your mental body will disconnect you from the planet. And yeah, you can get some answers from astral levels, but they're not going to be really true answers, because there's manipulators in there, and it's very dual.
So what about this blue star? The blue star seems to be a theme or a meme that's quite prominent over the last 12 months to 2 years as well. What is it? Do you know?
I have no idea what blue star is.
No idea? Okay. That's a quick answer.
I'm sorry, but
That's a good answer.
I really, I haven't been listening to anything what was going on in the last 2 years at all, because I had so much information to process. My mental body was going crazy. So I didn't want to overwhelm myself too much with information.
So what about, you talked about crystals last week too. What's the significance of the crystals on the planet? Have they all been put here, or some of them are organic to the planet? Or?
Some of them are from this planet, and some big crystals, like the ones they find in Mexico and stuff. There's a whole, a bunch of crystals that are big ones. Some of them have been brought from other planets when the stargates were open. So during the Atlantis is a long period of time. When Atlantis was harvested, that's what happens with the crystals. But they were being brought in here before, because the stargates were open and there were things that could be brought in here, and they were brought in here for that purpose because crystals can hold that dark matter within them.
They can?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're essentially here, they were brought in here to harvest that dark matter.
Okay, now if you don't mind, I want to get into more about what's coming. Because
what's coming?
Well, we've had, so many people have visions of, and following a theme too, visions of literally physically rising up from the planet while what you could call Dante's Inferno takes place underneath. The planet gets cleansed and they get put back. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that vision from different people. Or visions of a new Earth where there is nothing man-made or manufactured left on the planet. It's just in its pure state. Tidal waves, but not of water, but of energy that comes through and just wipes everything out. Where are those visions coming from? Are they astral manipulations, or are they internal creation visions? Put it that way.
The internal creation will give you sometimes a visual, and that one that you said that eventually everything inorganic will be gone from this planet, I very much feel the same way. That eventually, it will take time though. We can't get it done in this lifetime. I really cannot tell, but it will eventually. This planet had anchored its own timeline, and it's gonna go that way. It will get rid of all this inorganic stuff eventually. Will it be happening in a little small steps? I don't know. Will it happen all at once? I don't know that either. Our minds are so little and have so little ability to process. I get so much more information within me I can feel, but sometimes I'm like going, with the planet, what were you thinking? With me having such a limited English, how am I gonna come up with words? I don't have words for it. So I guess this is a kind of a joke thing. and this is the other thing that with the 15%, I'm going to tell you, you're gonna develop this really weird sense of humor about this whole situation. And you can notice that a lot of people don't get you, but it's really funny. A lot of this stuff is just funny. I laugh at myself all the time. So it's gonna happen, and we're gonna get rid of it. But the planet, in a way, is connected with all that's going on, and we are almost gonna see so the two Earth thing is also kind of makes sense to me, because the astral levels, they will do anything in their power to extend their life. So the manipulations will get much more extensive, and they'll be pushing all this, inorganic stuff on us, as it is already, like genetically modified foods. You have to understand what it is all for. It is to change your body. It is to harvest that dark matter from your body. It is to use it so you're with your body without understanding or knowing what it is. You actually feed astral levels, because right now they're so desperate they will do anything to extend the life here. And because they know it's going to take time, they will take it to the last second. For as long as Earth will allow them to do this, they will have all this inorganic stuff, and that it will keep on going, and it's going to get more elaborate, and the technology is going to, we're going to get even different higher level technologies here before all it's done.
So you made the comment that not in our lifetime, and this goes back to what's going on in terms of the evolution of our bodies. One of the very common visions is that these bodies become eternal again, and that we don't have to leave them and go through the death habit, as I call it, anymore. But is that you're saying that's a long way off still?
That is still a long way, and some people might choose if they die still, because we still have this period that is this whole change has to take place, and it's gradual change. So some people might die, and those 15%, they won't go into astral levels, they won't go anywhere. They will just become one with the planetary soul, which is part of that one and equal feeling. Is part of that which you feel inside, that little spark of you that's so powerful. That's going to be on such a big scale. And when you're in internal creation frequency, there is no hierarchy, like I said. So you're going to feel just one with all of it. This is the true oneness that people are talking about. This is one with internal creation, which has no end. It is, and this is, we came out from it before we were light creation. Every one of us, we were that. Then we went into the separation, and now we are returning back to what we always were. And so, but bringing our individual experience with it into internal creation, so it can even expand more. So what I'm saying is, those people from 15%, that when they die, they will go into this kind of space, like that whole, I don't know if I can use that word, but bliss of oneness after their death. And what you have to do is you don't have to do a lot mentally. What you have to do is just let the planet know that you want to stay with her, and she'll take you. And that's what it is. Not going through the silver cord and all of that stuff,
right? And
going into the light on the other side, because that's a trap, which is the astral level.
Oh, funny you say that. Yeah, that's totally in alignment with a vision I had myself back in probably 2010. About the, I've been calling it the rinse and repeat cycle ever since. And
a lot of ascension teachings were teaching that, calling you to go after your death. Some people were, explaining the death process. Yeah, with the light and all of that. They were calling it that fifth dimension, and that's where we were supposed to ascend. But all it was astral levels.
Okay.
But yeah, you see the manipulations are really deep, and they're so elaborate that it's so hard, and that's why I try to be very careful, because I will sound so negative to people. But it is what it is. We've been doing these teachings for so long. People are trying to go back home to heaven, and they are going, and it's like, oh yeah, let's go to the white light on the end of the tunnel, that silver cord that connects us to heaven. They've been doing that for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and then they come back here and they're all more tired than they were the last time before this, and they still want to do that same thing. It's like, it's insanity. It's doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
So I've had visions of what I call home, which looks like the planet, feels like the planet, and yet it is this perfected, balanced, blissful. It's, you know, when at dawn or at dusk, when you get the pink or the golden glow, and that pink or golden light goes over everything. It's like everything's infused with that, and you can see, I don't know, the colours are extraordinary, and the feeling is just incredible. And it feels very much like home, that's all I can say. Am I connecting with the planet at that point, or internal creation?
For you personally, because I can, because I've kind of been able to feel a little bit of your soul, I guess, origin. That is this planet is your home. It's just right now what it has inserted in her is this mess. But once that, if you take that, even if you mentally do this mental exercise, when you take all this duality out of the equation of this planet, when you take all this technology that you know works on making us feel in certain way, you know, what they spray in the sky and all of that, when you take it away from here, when you take away from inside of the people that, okay, we gotta fight the good, I mean, we gotta fight the bad with the good, and we gotta move, and we gotta constantly fight the opposite side that they fight within themselves. You know, when you take that separation, when you take the duality and you take all the technology and you take the astral levels away from this planet, when you take all of that away, you can imagine what your real home looks like, feels like.
Yes, I can.
And that's what you felt, and that's what you envisioned. This is that, and that feeling that you don't have words for it, probably. That's the feeling. That's the internal creation. That's existing in a non-dualistic existence.
Okay, I've got another question. If the astral's closed, where are the souls coming from right now that are incarnating on this planet at the moment?
With the astrals close from the home planet, but there is beings, and then there are lower incarnates that are stuck in astral, and this is where they're coming. They go back home to astral. They go through that silver cord to the light, which is the astral, and then for a while, because as long as this process is kind of keeping the same, it's just going to move slowly into that direction where the astral levels will no longer be able to reincarnate the lower incarnates. This is why we have such a big push right now on the planet for cloning and making bodies in here that they can grow in here, because eventually the natural process of reincarnating, it will start fading away even right now. But it's going to take time, but it's completely going to fade away. And the people, the souls that will go back to astral, eventually will not be able to reincarnate.
You make it sound like humanity, well, the humanoid biosuit will die out, but you're not saying that, are you? That
it's not really. It's going to gradually change.
Yep.
But at the same time, the astral beings that wanted to keep on extending their life in astral levels for as long as they can, they will create a kind of, they'll copy this body that they can grow here, so some of their souls can actually enter into a planetary level.
Because the bodies will evolve and change to the point where they can't inhabit them anymore.
Yes. And this is the thing, and that's why Elite does that in secrecy, because they are preparing that for themselves. They don't care about the little, Joe Schmo that they just harvested. They've used them and abused them for as long as they could, and then they will just let them die out. but for themselves, they do want to secure some kind of a way to come back here, because they can. It's like, where you completely starve, and this planet is a way for you to feed. So they will find any kind of way to feed. So and creating those bodies is actually one way of feeding. One way of trying to incarnate on the planet, to actually come into a planetary physical level. So that's why you'll see some people will talk about how they see all this, bodies that looks like are right now, but they're more kind of robotic, and they will be able to regrow the internal organs and replace them and things like that. It's all part of going that direction to where they want to create a perfect vessel for them, when the natural reincarnation process is not going to be able to happen anymore on this planet. They do have kind of, a way around it, a plan B, so to speak.
Hasn't that already happened with other races?
It's happening already, because what happens is, right now, some of those beings, they really, because the body that's naturally that Earth is producing, like I said, it has that organic frequency, and so it can actually, how to say, it can make them feel, they don't feel very good in that bodies. That's why they already want to test out this new bodies, and so it's part of the testing to make sure that it works properly. And so they do incarnate in those. And so we do have those, I don't know how, some people call them acrons, or I'm not sure what's the name for it. But there are more like human bodies that are more robotic. It is because they are a little bit different. They are created for them.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But the soul is still, and it's for they test that on the souls that are not that important, that are not that high on the level. They've tested them for years and years now. You can see that's probably going back 100 years ago, where they've been testing those bodies, and so they've been testing them to like be as soldiers and be this and that, and or be a security person or something. You will see that here and there, that there's something wrong with that person. But for me, I can feel it, because that's how I perceive world is through feeling everything. So you can feel that there's something wrong with that energy. It feels very robotic.
Yeah. I know the energy you're talking about. So if the planet itself is going to continue in this work as being a rehab center for some time while this process completes, what happens after that? What's her mission after that?
So then we're gonna move into, and she's gonna take, and it's gonna take a whole different. It's gonna be a different timeline. It's not like what we have right now, but it's gonna be a different timeline that it's a lot more fluid, and it will depends on all the collectives here, and eventually we will live through all that. Astral levels will be gone, and we will move into that which you had the vision of, where the planet has a completely organic, natural, neutral feel to it, and it's a blissful existence.
There are so many.
So we will move into that, although there's a lot of cleanup work to do. That, so I call this 15% of people as you're the cleanup crew. Sorry, but you agreed to it. You wanted to do it, and we're gonna do a good job with it.
Oh, I think we felt like shit shovelers for a long time.
Haven't you been feeling like you're a cleanup crew, and okay, this mess is a big mess.
Yeah. Oh God, I forgot what I was going to say then. God, how do I put this? There's so many different teachings, whether it's John Lamlash is coming to mind with his mythology of Sophia's correction, which he believes that she stepped into in the same time frame. Okay. The Wingmaker material is something that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about too. I don't know how much you, or if you're aware of it at all. We haven't really talked about it, but they essentially say, and I'm going to simplify what is a huge cosmology and a huge teaching, but essentially that there is a central race that created the biology, the DNA of the human biosuit. Mm-hmm. That this planet was seeded and acts as essentially a library, a huge DNA living library. Mm-hmm. And that, again, it's the same sort of story, that again, that these bodies are capable of all of these things we talk about: teleportation and telekinesis and telepathy and instant manifestation, all of that sort of stuff. And that we're coming into this time of this DNA all becoming active. So do you know anything about the idea of this central race, where they may be from? Do they exist? Is this just more astral, distraction and bullshit?
No.
What's your thoughts?
I did not read Windmakers until you mentioned something. I got a lot of emails with questions about that, because a lot of people saw a correlation in that. So and right before that, a friend of mine, just a few days before that, sent me a link to it, said, okay, we got to get into this, especially the last part. And I started reading it, the beginning of it, and, the first part and all of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is really kind of what already known, and I really don't know. But then everybody started asking me, so I read it through, and then I got to the 5th interview, and I went, what?
Yeah, that's a beauty, isn't it?
I'm like, is this real? And then I was just like, I've read through it, and I read it through it twice now. I mean, I cried through it, I laughed through it, and I was just going, why didn't I read this earlier? Because I can really see, because I feel the words, and even though the terminology completely different, the meaning to me is very similar to what I've been getting. There is some things that I still don't quite get it, but I understand the limitations of my mind, and I accept that, and I so it is what it is. I don't want to claim that I understand everything, but so much of it makes so much sense.
Yeah, that
part 5.
5th interview really, wow.
And then I looked at it, that it was released in March of this year. Was it truly released only in March of this year?
Yeah, as far as I know, that's accurate. The interview apparently took place in 97.
Yeah, 98. Mm-hmm.
98. The first 4 interviews have been available since then, I believe, but that last one was held back until March, when whatever happened that allowed them to feel that we were on the right path.
This is about the time when the final portal, that I felt that the final portal of harvest, meaning sucking the astral levels to the home levels, had been closing. And like I said, and this is when the time when I feel like it really, the timeline, the planetary timeline, had really anchored itself into the planet, and it was done. And everything changed after that. And I think at the same time, this is when this interview was released. And this, right now, after me reading the second time, I printed, it's got a marker, and most of the pages are like yellow now, because there's so much in it that I get it, So in a way, it's a confirmation, but at the same time, after I finish reading it, I'm like, oh, there's still so much work to do. There's still so much. There's still so much of of the manipulations that we have to somehow withstand as the planetary beings that are staying with this planet, that there's just still so much coming at us, because it's not going to be an easy process. It's going to be difficult, because it really is all this mess that's been created over millions of years. Somebody has to clean it up.
You know, Bill just reminded me that the other correlation with that interview being released, it was released just days after some documents were filed, which we call the IM documents, which was created by Heather, who is also here in Morocco with us, the woman behind the former One People's Public Trust, and the filings that foreclosed on the harvesting system in a lawful way from a 3D perspective. So just days after she filed these IM documents, which you may want to read those too. I'll send you a link to them. That this interview was released.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like he's saying that, you know, all these people are being prepared for is kind of, and in a way, they were hidden. And they were hidden within this body that was exactly like everybody else's. And in a way, we were feeding the astrals at the same time, so the astral beings don't figure it out that who we are until a certain point, and then boom, everything just became open, and it started within the people. And he talks about the human portal activating and anchoring first. And then there is a collective level. So when I talked last time about bringing some of this 85% of people into this timeline, this is what I'm talking about, that we need more people to actually fully destroy this illusionary reality and a separate reality that has been constantly protected and reinforced by the light creation.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of people changing their daily practice.
Okay, Lisa, I didn't hear at all what you just said.
I said I think you're going to have
Can
a lot
you
of...
repeat that?
Can you hear me now?
Okay. I guess I'm on the receiving end of that I will never hear that question, because it was probably a really good question.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. But as soon as you start talking, it's all...
It wasn't a great question at all. It was just a comment that you're going to have people at least reevaluating perhaps their daily practice.
Okay, that's probably, even though I didn't hear it, but the listeners will hear that, and they probably should pay attention to that comment, because it has a value.
Okay, well, if we're starting to lose the integrity of the call, so I think we might call it for today. And I think what I'd like to do, if you're up for it, is get together with you one-on-one, and we'll just do a series of talks that are separate, not necessarily the radio show. We'll just put out if you're happy to do that with me, and just keep having this conversation. We don't have to stick to this time schedule or anything like that. We can work together, but because there's so much more to this, and the more... I'm going to go back and reread the 5th interview now too, because I think we're going to find a lot of correlation. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very different terminology, but I think, and this is what I've been asking people, your listeners, that, before you process any of this information with your mental body, try to feel what I'm saying, because then there is different words, but they will, maybe it's a different words that I use or different terminology. But if you really feel what I try to say, you will understand this.
I agree.
I, like I said, it's this planet. She's funny a little bit. She makes this people sometimes, and you will find this too, that all of a sudden you understand what your part in this bringing this separation reality down, what your part is, particular part, because the 15% of those people, they will all have their part to play, because we need there's a lot of work to be done. And when you understand, and like what Heather has done, it's her part that she's playing in bringing down this system, and it will take brick by brick, but it will take all these people to play their part in something. And some people will have different role to play, which is not one is better than another. We all will work together as a collective of Earthlings, those that want to, for this planet, with this planet, build a reality that is they intended from the very beginning to build here. And so now we get it, but before we can build that reality here, we have to bring down this reality that is the illusionary reality that is so bipolar, that, and it's so there's so much manipulation still coming through, and they will not stop manipulating. And we will have to work together on this. And this is why I had to come and talk to you about this, because there is a call. The planet is want these people to start doing their job and stop having fear that this manipulations. Yeah, you might be attacked. You might be. You can get your personal life get destroyed. They will do anything in their power to stop you. They'll work. They'll send people into your personal physical life where they'll become. They want to be your friends, but what they're there to do is to stop you for what you intend to do, is to bring down the system, and it's going to come down. It will have to come down before we can fully move on with the timeline, this timeline that is planetary, where we can return back. We have to destroy this. This has to come down. And every one of these people, you have a role to play in. And even if it's something internal, and you think that just because you empowering yourself and you connecting to the planet, and that doesn't have effect on everybody else, you're wrong. It does. It does. Because even each person, it's like a weight. When somebody grabs onto this planetary timeline and is fully active in it, with just in themselves, it still works. It still helps the planet.
You've essentially described the theme of these radio shows since January of 2013, because it's all been based on the concept of we are the value lies within us, of breaking down hierarchy, the illusion of hierarchy, the perception of any power outside of yourself. This is why this particular audience gets what you're talking about, because this is the journey they've been on. We've all been on this together since January of 2013. So your intuition was spot on when it came to who to bring this to, because these people are the ones who are so prepared for it.
Yes, and with that, and that's what you said, January in 2013. This was the timeline when all the Earthlings just got, all of a sudden, boom, it made sense. It made sense, and they stepped into exactly what they're here to do. And before that, you're just bumping around like, had really, but there was, when you look back, there was things and subjects that you really got into, and that will in turn play a role for you, because you're going to reveal some of those subjects, like the spiritual teachers and things like that. And so people have these different layers, and so all your audience has a role to play.
Even to the extent of calling the Illuminati and the Cabal our partners, in contrast. and
Yes.
opening our arms and embracing them, and thanking them for playing the role that they have,
Yes.
and for being the harvesters that they are because of how it assisted us. So
Yes.
everything you're talking about is part of the journey they've all been on, and we've all been on. So
Yeah. Because essentially, by them getting so greedy and so obvious with what they're doing, they allow for that time window for Earthlings to just go, here we are, activated, and boom, everybody's like, okay,
yep.
here we are. And it did surprise them. It literally surprised them, because all of a sudden there was a change in spiritual communities. There was a change. It's almost like they want to bring you back. At least that's what I experienced. The manipulation after that become a lot stronger than it was before. Because before you were hidden. You were hidden as who you truly are. And then once you open yourself up and you become visible to them, who you are, they wanted to use your power. So there was a lot of push, and I'm sure you had that too. And a lot of times it would end in a negative situation, like people would just say, "Oh, you were going completely wrong direction. I don't want to deal with you." Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've had that, even though I'm not. I don't know. I haven't heard it, but I'm sure you've had that.
Yeah, of course.
You might have, where people just say you're completely wrong. You're going in the wrong direction. I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Yep.
So you've experienced that. Your listeners probably experienced that. I've experienced that, or people told me that just whatever. And at the same time, and so what I was trying to say, but when you look back, all of that, and that's why we have to be grateful to the Cabal, because they really allow us to, even before we got activated, to see and maybe get a little view of what your role into bringing this whole system down. So whatever subject you were really close to, or you're working through, or you were trying to find all the information on, that's part of probably a sign that that same subject, you're going to be part of that, bringing that down and bringing the illusion of the separation down with that specific subject. Mm-hmm. So all your listeners, and like you and all your group that you have right now, they have each their own sort of subject that they work on. But you all, and all of your listeners, need to understand that don't feel bad that you fell, let's say, for certain spiritual teaching or something that you feel like, why did I get so close to it? Why did I believe these people? Just know one thing. There's a reason for it. So you can bring that illusion down. You got to know your subject to be able to bring it down and to reveal it for what it is.
Exactly.
So all that, it was not a waste of time. It was preparation for the true work that you begin to do in January of 2013.
So many of us feel so tired. There are people in this community who are in their 60s, 70s, even in their 80s, who feel like they've been doing the work their entire lives. And they're tired. I mean, I'm tired. No, I haven't been doing it for that long. And the idea that this is going to go on for too much longer can just be a little bit too much to bear at times. But, wow. We're going to have to call this quits, because my computer's about to die as well.
Okay. Well, don't feel, whenever you feel like you're a little bit tired, go into the center and just go lay on the grass for an hour without thinking about anything. It's such a simple thing, and I recommend this to everybody, but what you will do is you center yourself, and that there's so much power within you, and it's unlimited. And so when you connect with that, it gives you more energy to keep on going. But we are almost there. We're almost there. Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit longer. Okay.
And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to bring down this illusion of separation. It's going to be fun. We will get our reward because we've been waiting for it for such a long time. And we've been preparing for it for a long time.
We have.
So,
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Appreciate so much, and people can still write me, and I'm sorry if I haven't answered some of those emails. I will do my best, and thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to having another conversation.
We are too. Thank you so much on behalf of everyone that's listening.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for all the hard work you do, because it's important, and the planet is extremely excited for what we are capable to do right now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, till the next time.
Bye,
everybody.
Soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.
At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest.